To create a wall section, we're going to be using a handout. Well, one of two handouts. We have a brick wall section and a stucco wall section. If I can get to the two. So this is what a brick wall section would look like and a stucco. And you'll have them both for reference, but we're really going to be referencing the stucco wall section that we're going to be creating in Revit. So I will tell you that there's two ways of, well, there's probably more than two ways, but there are two ways that I know of on how to create a wall section. The first one that I'm going to show you is how to create it off the 3D model. There is another way that's used what's called a drafting view, but I will not be teaching that. Mr. Iglesias will be teaching you that next school year because that way you guys can get experience of both of them. So as far as the wall section, it's very similar to how we did our foundation plan and our footing details, in that we created a section view of the foundation footing detail, which is what you use, and it's over here on the project browser as far as our detail section views. So we're going to add another one. So we're going to add another one to, we can start building our section, wall section drawing. Once again, we are going to be referencing the stucco wall section detail. And to do that, we're going to be cutting the wall section. Now, as far as we're going to be, and this is what's called a typical wall section. It's going to be a section of the wall of the entire exterior of the home. So everything on the outside is what this wall section would look like, because we have insulation, stucco, and things like that. That's what you're going to see on the exterior of the home. So that's what we're going to be using. And the other thing is we need to kind of cut it through where there is a window. So and as far as the orientation, whether it be the window the roof to the right or to the left, it doesn't really matter. So just to kind of keep things somewhat the same, I'm going to use probably let me see, probably this window here is the one that I'm going to use for my typical section view. So I'm going to go over here to view, and I'm just gonna, you probably should have a floor plan drawing already that's annotated with dimensions and text. You should have kept a level one view, and if it has dimensions and all that, that's fine, but it's really the one that I asked you guys to keep. That way you can keep adding information to it that you can use, in this case, section markers. And I'm gonna add a section marker under the view tab and click on this point here, and then this one over here. I need to make sure the section marker is pointing towards the top, and click right there, okay? So with that being said, just like how we did the foundation and footing details, there's going to be another section view. And this is most of what we're going to need. There's a few things that we need to take off, like for example, this one here. But as far as the furniture, the way I'm going to handle that is I'm going to go over here to the section marker. And as a matter of fact, it shows up on this view. But I guess I'm going to go back to my section, my, my level one section view, my level one view, and I'm gonna adjust the view depth. So this box, when I highlight the section marker, it shows my view depth. So instead of having to hide different things, I can just adjust the view depth so that it doesn't, so I can't see past the view depth. So any furniture in this case will not be shown anymore on my section view. And there's some other things that we're going to be hiding accordingly, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. All right. Make sure for now that you do have your region on. I need to see it because I'm going to be adjusting a couple of things. And then before I get too far, I usually want to, and I always recommend for you guys to set the sheet first. So don't forget that this one project has our floor plan, our foundation, electrical, and that's really what it should be. It should be just one project. If you've been saving as and saving each time to do each one differently as a separate project, you're doing it wrong. You need to really just have them condensed. How can you condense them after the fact? I'm not sure how you can do that. You'll probably have to Google that on your own, because I really don't know how to do that myself. But nonetheless, we are going to create another sheet. So I'm going to go in here, create a new sheet, right click, create new, C size, hit OK. And I like to go ahead and drop my view in here so that I can already start working with a scale. It's always a good idea to work with a scale first, because sometimes the default scale sometimes is different. And when you put your text and everything, the text looks too big and too small. And then you start working with, and then you start changing text heights, which is a big no-no. You don't do that. So let me show you how you really should be approaching these documents. So I'm going to go here to my sheet. I'm going to drag and drop the section view from the project browser, the one that I just created, and drop it here. So you notice it's really small. And as far as the scale, I know Mr. Iglesias usually uses about a half inch or something like that, but I'm going to exaggerate this, and I'm going to exaggerate this on purpose. It is going to be a little unrealistic as far as how it's usually done in industry, but I'm going to do that on purpose so I can show you some additional techniques. The scale that I want you to use, I'm going to select the view over here, that I want you to use is, once again, very, very exaggerated. I'm going to use a 1.5 inches equals 1 foot scale. Okay, it's very, very big, and it's bigger than the sheet itself, and that's exactly what I want. And there's a reason why I want that, because this is going to happen in industry, in that you do need to keep to a particular scale, and you can't change the title block and say that I want a bigger title block. So we can't do that. So how are we going to get around that? What we're going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of things on how to adjust the view. But once again, make sure you set up the section view at a 1.5 inch scale and a C size title block. Okay. So let me go back to my section view, and a couple of things. I don't need to see a whole lot of this as far as the roof. So I'm going to kind of cut this down a little bit. So I'm going to grab the section, the view itself, the region, the view region. I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to move this second. I don't need to see this part here. So I'm going to kind of just move this in a little bit here. And the top, I don't need to see too much of that there. And then I don't need to see all this earth down in here. So I'm going to grab this and move it up. And as far as the right, yeah, that could be okay, but I'm just going to move it in a little bit. So that right there is already going to make it a little bit smaller on our sheet, but it's still going outside the title block. Once again, I'm doing this on purpose. The scale is very unrealistic and in a big scale, but I want you to leave it like that. And again, because I'm going to show you a technique. So then the other thing is, in considering a wall section, we're going to have what's called these long break lines, meaning there's a window that goes across here. And as far as the window sizes, we have different windows to go out the house. So we really can't say that all windows are going to be a 2x8 or 2x a 4.0, 5.0, whatever window. So we're just going to make that generic. And I'm also going to break it. You can kind of see that there's a gap in here. There's a gap in here, and I'm going to break it on purpose. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here to show you that additional technique. So I'm going to select the view, the region, and that's why you need to see it, because I need to select it. And once you select it, you're going to see this guy right in here, and that's called a horizontal view break. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a portion of this disappear, so that way I can have that gap, and then I can move the top a little bit closer and then get it to fit on my sheet. So I'm going to select my view range, and then I'm going to click this one here to make that little area disappear. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this up so I can still see some of the bottom of the window. And this one here, I'm going to drag this so I can see some of the top of the window. The rest of it is really just a continuous window. It's the same throughout. And once again, it's not a whole lot of information in there. So I'm going to do that. That way I'm going to take advantage of the space. And then the other thing is I'm going to, once I have this region selected, I'm going to grab this marker here, and then I'm going to move the view region closer. Right there. Okay. So really nothing's happening to the model. The section is still staying the same. It's just that I'm adjusting the view. And just by doing that, I'm hoping that I should have enough space, and it's going to get a little snug, but it will fit. We're going to turn off this one in a little bit. We're going to have this little gap in here, and I'll tell you how we're going to put in those little markers in the next couple of minutes. And then we're going to start working with this section view, but that's exactly what it's going to look like. And again, I'll say it once more time. It is a huge scale. I'm doing it on purpose. That's not typical of what you're going to see in the industry. So just make sure you understand that in the near future. Okay, let's go back to section 4. All right, so I need to start adjusting some things. I'll show you how to put in these markers in a little bit. I don't need to see this level 2 thing, so I'm going to go in here and hide and view that entire category. I don't need to see the region. I guess I'll turn it off for now. And then as far as the ceiling, and another thing too is, as far as line weights, a lot of you guys have been having those light weights turned off. Make sure that you turn them on and off as needed. And don't forget to turn them on at the end of the day, I guess, whenever you're finished with the drawing, because you do want to see some line weights most of the time. But I'm going to turn them off for now. So I can start looking at some of the details. So as far as the ceiling, I know a lot of you guys put in a ceiling, But I will tell you, a lot of residential or just different types of construction will call for different kinds of ceilings. For now, we're just going to hide it. We're just going to draw in a sheetrock as if it were vaulted. You'll have to kind of figure that out a little bit later as far as those details, and I can help you on a one-to-one on that situation. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and take that ceiling, and this one I will hide it. I don't need to see that one. And this should have been done already. I'm not sure why it's not done here, but this wall does need to be attached to this roof. So I'm going to select the wall, and I really don't drag it. What you're going to do is you're going to go and attach it to the roof over here so that it's attached. So I can continue with my wall section. And let me see what else. What else should I start with next? Okay. As far as the roof itself, the roof, this one, just so you guys know, as far as our roof structure, this one has insulation, it has felt paper, and has OSB. And our roof here, the one that I asked you guys to use at begin with, is really just a generic roof. So let's switch that one over and just go to a wood rafter 8 inch. And I know that we just finished our roof framing plan, or it should have been the lesson before this one. And we used a 6 inch rafter, but we're going to go with an 8 inch right now. You could adjust it in the future, but for the spirit of just keep going with a wall section, let's just go with this one. And this is a very typical type of roof structure in that most roofs are actually with 8 inch rafters. And you're going to have to do this, but just to show you, as far as the structure of that one, it does show the structure of a 8 inch rafter. It shows a plywood sheathing of 5/8 and then our asphalt shingles of 1/4 inch. So it shows those different layers. And those layers are actually drawn in the wall section. You can kind of see them there. But if you notice, they don't show up here because of one other setting, which is called your detail level. So right now, there's a lot of things that are not showing, like for example, the hatch pattern of the concrete footing. So I can click on here under detail level, and it's default to coarse. So I can change it to medium or fine. Honestly, I don't know the difference between the two, so I usually just go to fine. And by going to fine, you'll start seeing a lot more of the detail, specifically hatch patterns and the layers inside those roof structures, because that is a layer that you're going to be need to showing, and we'll label it. So there's really not a whole lot to do here, okay, as far as the roof. The wall, unfortunately, we just went with a generic wall. I will tell you though that there are different kinds of walls, and they all have different materials and layers built in, kind of like the roof. But we didn't go that far. That's something we can probably cover a little bit later. But for now, we'll just stick with a generic wall. But just for your reference, you can define a structure of it, like brick and exterior, and you can embed that into your you know how we talked about the brick wall. You can embed that into the wall type itself, and do it a little bit differently than the way I'm going to do it, because I'm going to draw it just as detail lines and quote unquote, well, I don't like to use the word fake, but in a way I'm just going to draw them in as detail lines. But just so you guys know, the wall types could be further defined with different types of materials and line weights and thicknesses, and it will start putting in all that stuff for you. But once again, we're just going to go back to our generic wall and leave it as such, but that could be done in the future. Okay. I'm not going to go through everything, obviously, but I'm going to go through most of the things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to put in those little break markers there. So those break markers are going to be done. And you might have seen this before, but when you go to annotate, you have these components. Okay, so this is not a component like what you do over here. It's what's called a detail component. Okay, and when you click on detail component, you'll have something similar to like a regular component, except it's specifically for just details. So it's not a 3D thing. It's really just for 2D annotation. So I'm going to click on load family, and when you go to your families here, you're more than I'm more than sure you're familiar with doors and windows and all that. And you might have seen this one already under detail items, and there's weird divisions. Those are actually architectural divisions on construction. There's specification books written on the different divisions, and whenever they build a building, they have books with defining the divisions and who's going to do the finishes, and a different person going to do the furnishings and specialty equipment. Well, Division 1 is where you're going to find the brake line. So I'm not sure in construction, honestly, what Division 1 is. Division 3 is concrete. Division 4 is masonry. But Division 1 general is where I'll find the brake line. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to hit open. And I'm going to drop in my little brake line, well, not Lego, but the brake line, and then drop it right in there. Okay. You'll notice it kind of hides some stuff, but the part I need to hide is not necessarily the top part of it. It's kind of the part between. So I'm going to select the brake line and hit the space bar to spin it around. And then that way it's going to hide the part towards the bottom. And then I'm going to go back in here, drop in another detail component. And then this one's going to be the one here. And then I do need to hide the one to the top. And if you notice, it's starting to look kind of like our wall section. Pretty cool. Okay. So then that's one of the detailing components we're going to start with. And then I guess I'll start from the bottom. No reason in particular, but I'm just going to start from the bottom. Or I guess even the top, I guess. I'm going to go with a top plate here. Okay. Now remember, I had you guys draw your walls, your generic walls, and I had you guys draw them in as generic 6-inch. And according to our architect friends, 6-inch is kind of what you try to strive for as far as exterior walls. I will tell you, some people will tell you that we have to use 4-inch walls, but 6-inch is kind of the preference. But again, depends on who you're working with or if it's your own design. We're going to go with 2x6. So we are going to have a few differences from this wall section exhibit to yours. So we're going to go with a 2x6 double top plate. All right. And if you notice, it's drawn like a little rectangle and an X. Could I draw it with detail lines? Of course, but let me show you how to use what's called a detail component. So once again, I am in the architecture tab, detail component, load family. So if I'm talking about a top plate, that is lumber, that is wood. Okay, double top plate 2x4, just like the 2x4 studs. That is wood. So I'm going to go back over here, and once again, it's just sometimes the hard part of trying to find the different divisions. So as far as wood, that's going to be a division 6 wood and plastic, I think. There we go. And as far as the different kinds of wood, I'm looking at wood framing because I'm looking at 2x6. I'm going to double click on wood framing. And then we have the nominal cut and rough cuts. I will tell you that a 2x4 and a 2x6 doesn't actually measure 2 inches by 6 inches and 2 inches by 4 inches. That it actually shrinks whenever they cut it off the tree, because I hope you guys know that wood comes from trees. And yes, we are killing trees when we're building homes. But we're just going to go with the rough cut. The nominal cut shows it as the actual size after the wood is shrunk when it's cut from the tree. So I'm going to go with a rough cut lumber, and we have it in section, in top, or side or top. So I'm going to look for the section rough cut, hit open, and then it asks me what size do I want, and the R is for rough cut. So I'm going to go look under the list for 2x6 rough cut, 2x6, hit OK, and then it's going to draw in that little symbol for me. I hit the little space bar so I can place it. For now, I'm just going to place it there for now, and then it's double, so I'm just going to place another copy. Oops. All right, not sure exactly what happened there. And then I'm going to make a copy of that, CO for copy, and I'm going to copy it from that point to that point. Now, it is not in the correct location yet. It does need to be from that corner right in here where the rafter meets the corner of the plate. So I'm going to go ahead and come back over here, select this one. I'm going to press and hold the control key so I can select the second one. And then that way I can go and move the object. MV is a shortcut, by the way. I can just simply type in MV to move. Move it from that endpoint over to that intersection, or I guess it finds it as an endpoint right there. Okay. And then you notice that the rafter that's in the back, once I hit escape, it actually gets hidden behind the detail component. I'm going to turn on my thick lines so you can kind of see how nice this is starting to look. We're going to have a double header, which is going to be two 2x6s standing up right in here. So I'm going to take a double header. Since I have one drawn already, I can select it, type in CO for copy, bring it down over here, hit the little space bar so I can spin it around and then move it up. And then that's for our one header, and then CO for copy and draw in the other header right over here. And there should be like a little space in here. And according to Mr. Iglesias, they kind of build this up with plywood, but it's still a double header, so it's just two 2x6s. So according to him, he just told me just draw yourself a small little detail line. We'll go with maybe a medium line across from here to here, just roughly in here. And then the carpenter framer will know how that they have to put the two double headers and then fill it in with plywood, and they have to figure out the thickness so that they have the headers right in here. Okay. And that's how you're going to start building the detail components. And then down here, we're going to have our anchor bolts. I guess let me show you how to find the anchor bolts. There's a sole plate over here. So there's another 2x6 over here. And then the anchor bolts, forgive me if I struggle finding those, but I don't do this all the time. But since I have this one drawn already, I'm going to go ahead and copy this one so I can have my sole plate from that corner down to the bottom, right in here. And then as far as the anchor bolts, I'm going to go over here to detail component, load family, anchor bolts, anchor bolts, anchor bolts. It's going to be, should be a metal, division 5. It's going to be a structural steel framing, structural steel, common work results from metal fastenings, bolts. There we go. Oh, okay, very good. Anchor bolts, nuts, side, there it is. That's exactly what I need to hit open. And then there's different size anchor bolts, so I need to see what size anchor bolt I need. Let me look over here, and it's a 1/2 inch by 10-inch anchor bolt. So right now, don't just place it. Okay, and we sometimes get into the bad habit of just placing things. Eso lo que está ahí, mister. Well, that's not the case. This case is a 1.5 inch thick anchor bolt when it asks for a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go over here to go with a 1/2 inch anchor bolt. And then the length was 10 inches according to the notes. Okay. So this might look a little bit different, but again, yours is going to be drawn with a little bit more reality. So I'm going to flip this guy back this way. Oops. What am I doing? I was trying to flip it around. Okay. Oh, let me just drag it over in this direction. Delete type. Huh. Interesting. All right. I hate it when I do these videos and I kind of start looking like I don't know what I'm doing, and sometimes I'll be honest with you, I really don't. So I'm not sure why it's not flipping to the other side. Um, I guess I'll have to ask you to please figure that out for me, but it does need to be flipped over to the other side. Okay, I'll tell you right now, this is wrong. So again, I need you guys to make sure you draw it correctly. I'm sure you can figure it out. Just let me know because I'm kind of curious why I'm missing that. And I've done it before, I just don't know why it's not working. Okay, there it is. Very good. And then thick lines again. Once again, this does need to be flipped to the other side. Or is it this one? It bugs me so much when I can't figure it out. Just make sure it's flipped to the other direction. Okay, I'm sure you can figure it out. All right, so as far as detail lines, detail components that'll do it. Some of the other things that I need you to start drawing is your, for example, let me go to this one over here. We have our 1/2 inch OSB exterior sheathing, and this I'll tell you right now is drawn incorrectly because it's drawing the plywood right over the window. We can't cover the window with plywood or even the stucco. So right now I can tell you this one is, there's an error in it. So I'm going to draw those in as detail lines. I'm going to go over here and don't use model lines, by the way. If this is going to be a detail line, you're going to go to annotate detail line, and I'm going to draw those in probably as medium lines. Since it's 1/2 inch OSB, I'm going to draw that first one at a 1/2 inch thickness. So I'm just going to draw it with a 1/2 inch offset. So when I'm drawing the line, I could potentially draw it over 1/2 inch and then start drawing it up this way. But just to let you know that you can also draw lines with offsets. So I'm going to draw a medium line, just a regular line, and I'm going to type in here 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to pick this point and it's going to draw it 1/2 inch away from this point in this direction. And if it's on the wrong side, just flip it, press the space bar, flip it around. And I'm going to come up to the bottom of the window right across here. And then I could probably continue because I'm going to need it from here up this way. And it's going to come up to this point right over here. And of course, it's not going to go into here. I'm going to select this one and move it back to there. So I can draw my first one, and you do need to close this off. So DL is for detail line, by the way, just the letters DL, kind of like a shortcut in AutoCAD. And then I'm going to close this guy off here with another detail line for our OSB. And then we're going to come back over here and we're going to draw a stucco finish, which is going to be the second line. So the second line is going to be a stucco, and stucco just depends on the thickness, but we'll go ahead with a 3/4 inch thickness of stucco. 3/4 inches is going to start from this point here, 3/4 inches away, up to the top. And I just noticed something we have to do here. This is going to get a little bit interesting. This is where my lack of architectural knowledge is. How these little layers, I don't think we can leave that exposed like that, the OSB. I'm going to guess we probably draw it more like this way and then have this one come up here, but I don't know. Let's ask an actual architect. If you know of an architect anywhere in this classroom or in this area, maybe you can ask them those details. But nonetheless, that's a joke because we really do have somebody here, and I'll tell you that it's not me. So we're gonna close off the OSB and then just start drawing in those detail lines. Okay, and you can pretty much just copy how everything looks like here. So I'm not gonna go too much further other than to show you how to draw the notes. So the notes, and again, you guys are going to finish this one up. So as far as our notes, we're going to start drawing in our notes under annotate and text. Please use 330 seconds text, okay? And one thing that's been happening a lot is like 1/2 inch OSB is sometimes you guys look at this text and say, oh, mister, it's too big. OSB exterior sheathing, exterior sheathing. And sometimes you guys look at the text and, oh, mister, it's too small. So you've been doing a bad, bad, bad thing. Don't do that if you have been doing it. And if you did, fix it. The title, the text, you guys have been looking and saying it's too big or too small. So you've been selecting the text, editing the type, and changing the height of the text. We can't be doing that, ladies and gentlemen. That's not a good thing. And you've been doing that, and just to make the text look bigger, obviously it's a little bit too big here. You can't be doing that. You really, really can't. You need to leave the text at 330 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and add a leader over here. So we can point it to the direction that you need to. And don't forget that you can add leaders to the right or to the left, as many as you want. I don't need that many, but nonetheless, and then the other thing too is when you go and edit the text and change it, it makes the text way bigger, and then the arrowhead is really, really small. And that's kind of what same thing you guys did in AutoCAD, where you just adjusted the size of the text, not necessarily scale factor. So in this case, once again, you can't change that text. If you changed it, make sure you put it back because it does need to stay. And the text I'm asking you guys to use for most of it is going to be the 330 seconds inch text. Okay. So I think that's all I'm going to show you for now. The rest you should be able to do on your own. But nonetheless, you should have a nice wall section by the end of this exercise. Make sure you fix the anchor bolt in the right direction. Put your text, your name, date, and finish up your title block and submit it as I'm asking to for you on either Blackboard or Teams. Thank you very much.